All right. Welcome to our webinar on Foragecaster, hosted by AgriWebb. People see people filing in at the moment. We have Pip here with us from the customer success team. How's it going, Pip?
Very well, thanks, Kenny. Good to see a bunch of people filing in now. We've had a good few people register, and we'll just wait a few minutes whilst everyone joins the webinar. Hello, Phil, in the chat there. Perfect example. Everyone can feel free to throw any questions into that chat box, and we'll shortly be launching a poll as well to get a few questions out to you guys. But very happy to have you guys here, and thanks for joining. We're really excited to be about to talk through everything Foragecaster and some updates. So yes, thank you for joining.
And whereabouts are you at the moment, Pip? You've had a few different remote locations over your time.
Yeah, so lucky enough to work remotely for AgriWebb. Right now I'm about 2 hours south of Sydney, but do have the opportunity to get all out and about and visit our customers, which is fantastic. So in saying that, if anyone wants to throw in when they're joining from into the chat, we've got Locke from Northern Tasmania. Obviously Phil said hi, but we'd love to see and hear where you're tuning in from. Hopefully you're going to have a good range of people from all across the country. We've got some Gippsland, Comnock, Darling Downs, Southern Queensland, Brisbane, Western Vic. Fantastic.
I see Darren in Brisbane. Yep. How's it going, Darren? See people from Highlands, Adelong, Washington State. There you go. What time it is over there.
Beautiful. South Australia, good mix of people, which is fantastic. And again, we might launch our poll now, which I can see lovely Amber has done for us. If you guys want to throw some answers in there, this will help us in, tailoring what we present to you guys today. And it's also really helpful for us to know longer term now as well. So we've got question 1, how far in advance do you plan in terms of your farm planning? So 3 days, 2 weeks, right up until 12 months. How valuable is productivity benchmarking to your business? And how valuable is sustainability benchmarking to your business as well? So if you want to throw some questions in there, we will share the results out of that in a second as well.
Thank you, Pip. While we're waiting, I was wondering if everyone knows about some of the more recent different features that have come out on AgriWebb. One of the things we hear when we go out and people ask for features, we say, oh, we released that a year ago, or 2 years ago, or 5 years ago, or it was one of our very first features. So understanding the new features, that's a constant challenge on this product as we keep on improving it as well. Did you know that on individual animal management, you can now have movement history? You can understand the movement history of your animals, of your livestock, through the history, where previously it was just for mobs. Another thing is we've improved tasks a lot. We've added a duration and time on it as well, plus task categories. We have a whole lot of task categories that you could use to help sort your tasks. Along with that, there's map filters on the portal as well, on the web portal. So you could easily filter what you're seeing on the map, because sometimes you have, way too many landmarks, or you just want to see some of the age classes of cattle, or you could even filter on the task categories as well. Now, the recent thing that's come out is push notifications. So that can help with the tasks to understand for when you want to know when things are due or when they're overdue. And also multiple people on the tasks. That's been a requested feature that we released last year. So people want to say that previously there was only one person per task, and now you can have multiple people. How'd that list go, Pip? Did I miss
Yeah,
anything?
perfect, Kenny. And good timing because we've had most people share their answers to the poll, which is great. So we've just shared those answers with you guys. So one, how far in advance do you plan a good spread through that, sort of more from the couple of weeks in advance right up to a year? And then how valuable is productivity benchmarking to your business? Neutral right up to very important, another good spread, and same goes for the sustainability benchmarking. So that's really handy for us to know. No one said they're not important, so very good for us with the topic of Foragecaster and what we aim to do here. There was just a question in the chat, will there be a recording to share with other staff? Yes, there will be. So that will get sent out to you after the webinar is done. And feel free to share that with staff, friends, family, whoever you think will be interested. But Kenny, perhaps we get started. So for anyone that missed, joined here, I've Pip from Customer Success Team. We've got Kenny, who is our VP of Research and Development at AgriWebb, and David Allen, who is one of our customers. And today we'll be going through an introduction to Foragecaster. So what the project is, we'll be going through that and how far through it we are. So if anyone that doesn't know, we'll go through that. We'll then pass on to David, who is one of our customers. We'll get into why we've invited him to join today, but we're very lucky for him to be on board. So thank you, David. And then we'll get back into Foragecaster. So go through our grazing outcomes, the output so far, and then announcing the beta group. So the purpose of today. And then we'll get into some questions and answers at the end. But definitely feel free to throw any questions in the Q&A box or the chat, and we'll do our best to go through them during it as well. So with that, Kenny, I might pass to you and we'll do an introduction of, what Foragecaster is and what it's all about.
Yeah, thank you. So a few of you may have seen some of the talks before. I'll go through these early slides pretty quickly. But just overall, I started getting close to 10 years, getting my long service leave very soon. So I was the first employee after the founders. I started leading the engineering. After many years, we had focused on record acquisition, getting more features to support our customers. We'd done a great job of collecting all the records that had happened historically on the farm. People were starting to ask us, how can we understand our planning better? How can we use our records to help our planning? There's a whole lot of research going on in Australia on pasture, on livestock, on weather. How can we incorporate what's going on? Because it's very important for Australia into the products, into tools that people use every day. So that's where this idea came about Foragecaster, in that we set up a research group about 4 years ago now. So now moved into the research side, where we're working with researchers at various universities and also within the company as well, where we are trying to understand how to bring in this research into tools that you guys can use every day. So the current situation is we're getting people asking us about the sustainability metrics, as you can see from the poll. People want to know what is their current emissions and sequestration and other metrics that are available, not just for today, but what does it mean into the future as well. So it's not just the progressive farmers that are asking this, it's the corporate farms, and even the banks and supply chains want to know how that comes down the supply chain. Regarding the producers, how do you accurately forecast supply? So previously we'd looked at two weights and extrapolated that, and that's not very accurate as you go into the future because cattle don't grow in a straight line. So how do you understand the proper curves to understand the true weight in, like, for example, 4 months? How can we understand farm resilience and productivity? Over these years, we've collected, a whole lot of purchase and sale records. We've seen droughts in different areas. What are the factors that are in common for these high performers that bounce back quickly from these environmental disturbances? Can we isolate it to different management practices? Can we isolate it to different sustainability practices? More natural grasses, more pasture diversity, for example, or did they just destock earlier? So there's weather forecasting, and this is a issue that people have been complaining about, because people can say, well, it's going to rain, it's going to not rain, and then people make a whole lot of decisions on that. And sometimes it's right, sometimes quite a lot it's also wrong, because the weather forecasting is a very complicated beast. There's no crystal ball that's going to tell you what that weather is in the future. However, what it does show you is it does show you a range of what it could be for high rainfall, what it could be for low rainfall. And this is something that is improving in accuracy and resolution. It's been a major pain point for farming because we're trying to boil that down to a single answer and make our plans based on that instead of trying to plan for the different scenarios. As I mentioned before, there's a whole lot of research going on, but the output is often a research paper or a single purpose tool that everyone has to get a new username and log in and type in all the information each time. How can we get this research into the hands of tools you use daily? The other point is we've collected a whole lot of information over this last 10 years. How can we use that for research to make better products for the producer? And imagine we could tell you your sustainability metrics right now. The next question is, we know you're buying stock in 3 months or you're going into a dry period. What do you have to do now to hit your sustainability targets in 6 months? So the idea is to create a livestock supply forecaster using the best of breed domain models together with machine learning. So this has been a 4-year project called Foragecaster. One of the outputs is a grazing planner where you can plan for different weather scenarios. We also want to understand pasture quality, not just quantity. We also want to be able to machine learn to understand more accurate livestock growth. And plus, we want to be able to give better sustainability reporting. So these are the major components we talked about: to bring in the weather, to understand different pasture plans, to understand how the livestock growth works for different plans, and the sustainability and resilience that comes out of it. So for this Foragecaster project, there's multiple groups involved. It's a government grant through the CRC, the Food Agility CRC. So they put in money, the industry puts in money as well, and also the universities put in money. And we're working with UTS and QUT and the UNE Smart Farm. We're working with industry partners, Flint Pro, and also SIBO Labs as well. And there's 4 major streams that we've split up the researchers. It's a very large project. It's like 36 people, including 9 postdocs and 4 PhDs. So we have people assigned to livestock growth, to pasture growth, to understand sustainability metrics, and also the planning tools. One of the major outputs is this grazing planner that you can have plans for different weather scenarios. And the other part is to really understand the effect of these different scenarios. Just a brief timeline here, showing you this is the second phase of our project. We had a first phase, which was a pilot. So we are releasing a carbon calculator mid-year. You've already seen the grazing planner that came out last year, and that's going to keep on improving as time goes by. So one of the things is the ethos of this project. We want to make sure that what we're doing is of value. We don't want to do just research in space. We're a startup in the scale-up phase at the moment. We won't survive if we just did a 4-year project without anyone seeing any of the outputs. We want to make sure that the research, the outputs of it, have industry impact. We want to make sure that the outputs that we are showing you have been validated through on the ground confirmation, working with your farmers. And also, we want to make it iterative as well, to make releases throughout this 4-year project. And we're currently we're in the 3rd year now. All right, I'll hand back to Pip for the customer spotlight.
Perfect. Thanks, Kenny. So just to introduce David, you can see him on the call, who is one of our customers, thankfully. David and his family have been on their property Burrook near Mort Lake in Western Victoria for 118 years now, and his son Nick has now just taken over the day-to-day management of the farm. The property has a soil carbon project operating with the Clean Energy Regulator, and the Allens continue to focus on building carbon in the soil as well as enhancing biodiversity. Burrook is primarily a cattle breeding operation, finishing cattle for Coles, meeting the specs for Coles Finest, Coles Carbon Neutral, and Graze brands. Recently, the Allen family were finalists in the Weekly Times Coles Farmer of the Year Awards, and the farm has also been selected to be the Australian flagship farm for McDonald's. David sits on the Farm Advisory Roundtable panel with other farmers around the world who supply to McDonald's, reflecting his commitment to sustainability and focus on natural capital. David has also had a long-term interest in land care and tree planting, and is a regional consultative committee member for Cattle Australia, and also chairs the Cattle Australia Sustainable Resilient Beef Systems Working Group. So with all that in mind, we're very lucky to have David join us today to share some of his insights. So David, I would love if you could tell us a bit more about your property and yourself, and then we'll get into some probing questions as well. But yeah, if you want to give us a quick intro, that would be great.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yep, got you.
All good. Thanks. Thanks, Pip, and thanks, Kenny, for asking me to come on board here. We'll see how far we get with a bit of a chat. There's certainly, a lot to talk about, really. So, as Pip mentioned, our main activity is supplying coals, and that's the focus of most of our attention. So, obviously, the things we measure there are the weights and the weight gains, and Nick does a great job in terms of lining up the cattle in terms of weights for future sales. So we sell a few loads straight off grass before Christmas, and then from then till about June, into May, June, we're feeding these grain-free pellets, which is really the only way we can fatten cattle reliably down our way. So that's been a really interesting exercise, developing a system for that, and it's all relates around data, of course, and we're always looking to improve our data. But because it's really important to meet the specs, the coal specs, and to do that, they really need to be gaining 0.8 to 1 kilo per head per day, every day of their lives. And as an example, when I first came back from Ag College, we used to sell big old bullocks. They were called Jap ox bullocks for the Jap ox market in those days. And they were sort of aged between 24 to 36 months old. And you'd just ship them off, and that was it. And they were, reasonably heavy. They were 320 to 350 kilos sort of dress weight. But now, with under Nick's sort of control, and with using better genetics and better nutrition and better management, we're now selling them from 14 months to 20 to 22 months. And the weights are, perhaps 10, 20 kilos lighter there. We average about 300 kilos dress weight, or 285 or so to 210 to 310 is where we sort of end up. And it's a good market, and as Pip said, into the carbon neutral brand, we have a limited number to go into that, and then also the Graze brand, which is just the grass-fed brand. And that's been very successful, but the focus is on making sure that they reach the specifications. We use rotational grazing on these couple of blocks where the cattle are finished, with the rest of the team as they're waiting to come into their slot according to their weights. So we're interested in making sure that still works. I mean, it's a little bit ironic that right now you wouldn't be able to measure anything on our farm at the moment because there is just zero grass. It is a nightmare. Shocking. So the Cibo Labs boys would have to come out with a magnifying glass, I think, to see our grass at the moment. However, they tell me that it'll rain again one day. So the carbon story is interesting. We've been interested in that for quite a while, and there are no downsides in improving your soil carbon levels. It doesn't matter which way you go about it, but there is literally no downsides to improving soil organic matter and therefore carbon. So that's what we're sort of working on, we use compost for that, homemade compost or actually bought-in compost as well. That's our management change, because when you take on a soil carbon project with the clean energy regulator, you've got to change your management in some form or other. So our change has been using compost, and that's sort of been okay. We've had to do the whole place pretty much to meet the requirements. We're 4.5 years into the first 5-year program. We've got to measure within the next 6 months or so to do our first bench, or no, not the benchmarking. We've got our baseline, but it's called a T1 to do our next measurement. But what I'm really interested in, particularly with my role with Cattle Australia and the McDonald's connection as well, this issue of, it's a sort of step ahead, a step above the sustainability, really. It's but the biodiversity, natural capital, nature positive stuff. And McDonald's have a goal in 2030 to say that nature was not impacted or put at risk in the production of this hamburger. So that's their goal, to have that. And I think it's a great goal, but how do we actually measure it? So that's what I'm really, really interested in, and particularly with this program that you guys are working on. I see AgriWebb as the perfect tool to be able to keep track of all our data in terms of trees, hopefully, and vegetation, and other areas of biodiversity as well. Water quality, bird numbers. There's a range of things we can slot into that, and I really look forward to seeing how that's going to be developed and come to fruition down the track. So that's our big challenge, is proving that we are not damaging nature. And it's come about from frameworks, global frameworks, and there's the Task Force for Nature-related Financial Disclosures, and prior to that there was the Task Force for Climate-related Financial Disclosures. So the climate one, the climate nature related financial disclosures has come to fruition in terms of the safeguard mechanism that the government introduced last year, wanting companies to have a target, have a plan, well, firstly identify what their emissions are, and then have a plan to reduce their emissions. But the next cab off the rank is the nature-related financial disclosures, and that's where certainly the big corporates are very interested in preserving nature, and where the Nature Repair Bill from the government as well has developed this the biodiversity certificates that we can use, and I'm sure as we go on there'll be more developments in terms of how we can do that, and maybe hopefully it'll be broadened a bit, because it's a bit too restricted at the moment, and the government are not overly helpful. But the corporates, the Coles and the McDonald's and the Woolworths and all the big companies have these demands coming in from their obligations. They've got to identify what their emissions are and then reduce them by 4.9% every year. So that comes back to the Scope 3 emissions. So I see a great opportunity for us as farmers and land managers to be able to capitalise on that and hopefully monetise some of our biodiversity and land care type work. So they've got the international frameworks, SBTI and the TNFDs and the TCFDs, and they've also got the government regulations coming in. So they've got obligations coming in from all over the place, and luckily, hopefully, we can sort of benefit from it in the future. But we've got to have good data, and that's where I think you guys coming in. I think that's probably all I've got, really, Pip.
Yeah, thanks, David. Yeah, I got to drill in a few more questions there. So you're talking about, biodiversity, and there's other measurements on farm to get, and there's a whole lot of work that we can be doing in sustainability, and we're slowly getting there. But you've also, by reducing that average age to get to the target weight, that's a productivity benefit, but it's also a massive sustainability benefit as well, right? So, because all that maintenance energy that's getting lost every day, all that feed that you're saving there, have you been able to quantify those sustainability savings?
Yeah, really good question, Kenny. No, unfortunately not, because yeah, what I was doing when I came back from college was a number of years ago. It wasn't just a little while ago. It was many, many years ago. So just with sort of better management and yeah, so better nutrition, better genetics, we've sort of been doing that by default. But it's a classic process of reducing emissions, and that's what the MLA are very much promoting that. Yeah, the ability to improve nutrition, genetics, and stuff is a great way to minimise or reduce emissions. Our emissions intensity is 10.9 kilos of CO2 equivalent per kilo of live weight. So yeah, we're monitoring that, and anything we can do to keep that chipping away is good. And of course, what we're finding now is that the coals are very interested in helping us to reduce our emissions, whether it's through the soil carbon or vegetation carbon, and any of these other management issues or processes as well, to try and improve that emissions intensity figure.
All right. So hopefully we can help you out in the future with this project, with being able to collect that information. And would you have an idea of how your farm's comparing in the region? Like, would you see your neighbors doing similar practices, or further out? Do you know? I'm assuming you're doing pretty well, but do you have an idea of how well?
Yeah, we are. There's four of us. So in this Coles group that have been, there's about 15 or 16 of us who have started off sort of supplying cattle to Coles initially for the carbon neutral brand, and then the Graze brand. And Coles have been using Integrity Ag, Steve Wiedemann, to do all the monitoring work for us. And we had a meeting a while ago, and we're in the top four, and the group average, I think, is about 11.9 or 12 or something. The average for Australia is something like 17 or 18. I'm not too sure where that figure is on the Australian-wide sort of average. So I think, yeah, we're sort of, because we've been doing what we've been doing and we've had the direction of Coles, we're sort of ahead of the pack to a degree, yeah.
Excellent. Great to hear. Thanks. Thanks for all your comments and input there. So we would like to make that idea of that benchmarking available to the wider group as well, so everyone can see how they're going compared to the region. All right, thanks, David. I'll move on now to talk through what this Foragecaster can look like. And what I'm doing here, I'm doing a quick repeat of a presentation I gave last October. And the idea is, what does the final product of Foragecaster look like in regards to grazing planning? So you might come to the product with a question, and the question is, should I be buying stock next month? There's a whole lot of factors that would feed into this. Usually you would be running a pretty high stocking load, though, if you're not getting the rain, then you're in trouble. You'll be buying feed. When you're buying feed, then all the neighbors are buying feed, all the prices going up. So, where's the maths behind it? Should I be buying stock now or not? So this is looking like your AgriWebb map with a little difference. This is bringing in that concept of not just quantity, but also quality as well. So you can get an idea about the energy content on the different fields. So that's just the view of like what the current state is on your paddock. Well, let's go and create a particular scenario following the big red cursor. So let's do a scenario for 90 days. Okay, now we're going to pick a different weather pattern to predict for. Imagine we break it up into three different sections: high rainfall, moderate rainfall, low rainfall. Let's look at how historically we've been tracking. We're kind of like fitting around the moderate pattern. So let's start with a moderate scenario for starters. Looking at the current historical, we can identify that, oh, it's similar to 2012. It's also a bit similar to 2006 there. Okay, so now we'll make a purchase in a month. As you know, in AgriWebb, you can do purchase records already. However, the calendar is blocked to only do historical ones. So this is the idea of opening up the calendar picker, the date picker that is. So then you can actually put purchase records in the future. It doesn't mean that they've actually happened. They can be, correlated with a task that says that, hey, you said you're going to purchase on this date. Okay, so we've made this purchase record in the future. We've put a bunch of head on there. All right, so now we'll have to put them in the paddocks to understand where they're going to go. We'll select the first paddock and say, well, we're going to put them in Amber's fallow there. Now, I could keep on making my own grazing plan as you do today. But we're also going to add this fancy button. So this is the idea of we're trying to figure out what is the optimal plan based on what we know. And this is trying to maximize the eating where you move the stock into the paddock at the late stage 2 before it goes into flowering, and you eat them down to the early stage 2 without overgrazing. We're also minimizing on distance as well, so you're not having to trek zigzag across your farm. Of course, this is just a recommendation. You can tweak this and change it as you like. This is just a quick helper there for you. Oh, sorry, just go back here. What are we seeing on the left here? We're seeing the daily pasture growth with that line. And the pink line is showing the animal load. This is showing for the paddocks you have actually selected. So it shows as the animals are growing at this point in the cycle, they're eating more than that's being grown. That's not bad per se, depends how much feed you have available. And that's the top graph here, showing you all the feed available. And we should be fine. There looks like there's enough feed there to be okay. What does the weight of the animal look like? Let's click on the weight target here of the livestock. Now you can see that I've already set my target weight, plus or minus was 350. And we can see that most of them are hitting the target zone. We've got some going over. Okay, so when you're happy with that scenario, okay, what does it look like for low rainfall? So for starters, we'll just copy and paste your plan from the medium to low. And now we can see, oh, it's looking a bit more dire over here. Now the feed's getting a bit low as we're not growing as much. So in this case, we may want to create a future feed record. And that will look like that. They'll bump it up, and you can change that as much as you want and say, okay, that's enough. That's fine. We can live with that. When you're happy with that, you click save, and imagine you do the high rainfall as well. Now, this is an analysis of your particular various scenarios. You have your low, your medium, and your high rainfall here. If you look at the orange, that would be the purchase price or the expected value of them when you start the scenario. And you have the sale price up there as well in the blue. And from there, we can start pointing in other attributes as well. For example, if we can quantify the natural capital, or maybe we'll separate that into pasture capital, for example, where we ate a lot there. We had to feed a lot of supplemental feed for the low rainfall. And you ask, how can you be a positive natural capital by buying in animals? Well, to consider that as like pasture capital, we may split out pasture capital to be a separate one. You may be having a better effect to bring in extra animals because your paddocks are about to go into flower, for example. You weren't having enough stock to cover all those paddocks. So by bringing in animals, there is a chance that you could be increasing your pasture capital. If you notice these black lines, these are the midpoints to say overall, including the natural capital, you would be losing your money. Over here, this is just pure dollar values at the net profit. The net benefit is including the natural capital as well. So what you see here is it's a bit mixed. Overall, it's positive by looking at the percentage chance of each of these scenarios having rain. but it's a bit mixed. There's a chance you could be losing money as well. We'd call this a medium risk. If you want to reduce your risk, we could calculate to say, hey, if you drop your head down to 150, that would reduce the extra load on your paddocks. You don't need as much supplemental feed. Potentially, it won't be as damaging for your natural capital. That could make all the black lines in the positive, and we'll call that low risk. So this is an example of how Foragecaster could be used down the line, about what it would look like. Now we'll cover the outputs so far of where we're
Kenny,
at.
sorry, just to interrupt there, we've had a few questions that I thought would be good
Oh,
to
great. Jump
go through
in.
now. So we had from Nicolette, is the weather comparison drawn from producer file data or weather data from external sources for that area, e.g. the BOM?
Great question. Great question. So we have the silo data coming from Queensland government's long paddock, and then that's the 5 kilometre grid. We also have the IoT data that the farmers have. So we connect with various third-party devices that can populate your rain gauge. So we can use either. Well, we'll definitely preference your local data if you have it. But if you don't have it, then we can go back to the silo data for the historical.
Fantastic.
I remember there was one customer that joined that had rain records from 1890 or something like that, and they wanted to import all their rain data. So yeah, talk to support.
Absolutely. And then it's another one from Justin. Where is the data on the feed, on the quality of feed coming from? So within the system, where's that coming from?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I've got some slides that talk a bit about how we're working out pasture quality. It's a very hard problem to get a silver bullet solution from remote sensing. So we've taken an approach that the pasture quality is made up of a few different variables. So we can estimate it as best you can, but you can tweak each of those variables as well. And I'll get to that in a slide or two.
Perfect. And then just a quick one from Tom. I think on that last slide, is there any overhead and direct costs entered into the background? So taken into account other than costs in AgriWebb?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're actually capturing a whole lot of costs that aren't even shown there that we can bring in as well. For example, on each of the records, you can have labor costs or transport costs, and there's lots of different options there. So we'd like to bring all of those into account as well. This was just a design mock-up of showing you the major components. As we get into the nitty-gritty, we'd like to get it more comprehensive there. But yeah, at some point we'll need to be able to capture that record in AgriWebb, where we already have that on the records, but we'll need to have it somewhere in AgriWebb so then we can show it to you on the graph.
Perfect. That's all the questions for now. So maybe we get into the next bit.
All right. So one of the things we promised as part of the Foragecaster was this grazing planner. So we've released this last year in 2 phases and 2 different product offerings as well. We have the movement planner that came out mid last year. And this allows you that top half where you could do of that previous slide that showed the grazing, where you could just plan all your movements on the different dates. It doesn't care about the feed on offer in those paddocks, but it's just if you have an idea of how you want to move them, then that's how you use it. If you are calculating or tracking the feed on offer, if you have like the SIBO integration or you're entering it in manually, then you'll be using the grazing planner. And that's where we're calculating how much feed's getting eaten down at those different time points as well. And of course, the grazing planner includes the movement planner as well. So that came out last year, 2 deliverables there. Slide wasn't healthy. Let's go to this one, feed planning. So this came out as well. So this is the idea of how do you plan your feed runs? Because previously you'd have to do a feed record every day. So this allows you to assign a feed record automatically into the future. So for example, you could set these are the days I'm going to be feeding. I'm going to repeat it for X number of weeks. and it will automatically create those tasks for you. You can just tick them off. And we've also got it not just on the web, but also on the mobile as well. That came out a couple months ago, February. This is what it looks like here. And you can choose the end date, or pick which day you're feeding. We also have the notifications, as I mentioned earlier. So they apply for the grazing and the feed plans as well. So you can help assign to people get notified when they have to move the mob or when something's due. All right, so then the question came up on pasture quality. Oh, missing a graphic here. Let me try again. Oh, it's disappeared. Oh, here we are. We're back. Okay, so pasture quality. So as I mentioned, it's a hard number to come up with. It can be made up of many different things. The approach that we're taking is we are getting a variable for the life cycle of this pasture. And this can be continuous variable. It doesn't have to be just the number 1, 2, or 3. Imagine this is like a slider of where your pasture life cycle is at. So we can take our best guess of it using remote sensing, but we can also allow the user to be able to tweak it, because actually this one's in flowering. Likewise, we'll be getting an idea about the classifications of the pasture there. So that could be identifying the C3 versus C4, the temperate versus tropical, annual versus perennial, the grass, legume, and shrubs. So with those information, we'll be able to get a pretty good idea of the dry matter digestibility. From there, with the quantity, we're also understanding the energy content there. So at the moment, with the SIBO integration, what you're getting is the quantity, all right? But for understanding livestock growth, the quantity is not enough because, maybe it's post-flowering and it's all yellow and dry. So we need to understand the quality as well, and that's where we're headed. This is some examples of what some of the researchers have been working with our beta farms. So you're analyzing them in detail, see what they look like in each of the seasons, showing how the different vegetation and enhanced vegetation indexes work at the start of season, at the peak of season, at the end of season. They're doing a lot of temporal analysis as well to try and see how has this grass been changing over time for different factors in regards to how it's affected both rainfall and so on, to really understand what are those classifications. This is an example of some earlier work that happened where they were trying to figure out how they were growing in different clusters. And then you can see the different growth rates here. So techniques like this can be used to help identify those clusters, to say that, oh, look, the annuals are responding really well after rain. Is that showing us that it's an annual grass there? And that's where we need help from the farmers and the beta testers to help validate this for us. This is an example of a livestock weight. So they did machine learning on one of the livestock farms. So they looked at 15 random. They built the model for the whole thing, and we're visualizing 15 of them here to show you what it looks like. So this is the predicted, and then this was the actual here. And you can see for these ones in the top right, the benefit of these smarter models compared to just the linear extrapolation. Given these were your previous weights, linear extrapolation will be way lower. But the machine learning was realizing that it was kicking up and predicting the weight much closer. This is an example of what the benchmark data could look like. This is for one of the particular beta farms, where we could break it down into the various different age classes there, look at how their average daily gain is, and how is it comparing to the region. How's it compared to the central tablelands? How's it compared to the wider state, Southern Australia, and the entire national data set? So then we come to sustainability metrics. There's a whole lot of metrics that are possible, and we're starting on what we can do, and we're growing from there. There's a whole lot of greenhouse gas metrics that come out through the SBGAF. That's all pretty straightforward. We know how to do that. We're releasing our tool mid-year, and you'll be able to get all these outputs for that pretty straightforward. Then we want to understand what land health, and that can be the quantity, the quality, and also ground cover. We can look at the vegetation areas. What's the effectiveness of the shelter belts, tree connectivity as well, like how important are the trees there in regards to biodiversity. We're working with ANU as well. They're doing some work where they're analyzing shelter belts to try and measure their effectiveness. And they're also relating it to the productivity of the farm to try and understand how these shelter belts are making a difference. Or for example, for weaning percentages, deaths while weaning. And also there's deforestation, which SIBO have already been working with customers on this already. There's various aspects of biodiversity we can look at, occurrences, and also distribution maps. There's some water analysis we can do as well. We can give you a percentage of your, in the south, for example, your 1 kilometer coverage of all your paddocks to a trough, or in the north, maybe you're going to call it 5 kilometer coverage, or we could even just spit out a single number, which is your average distance to a trough. And that's taking into account all your crazy shaped paddocks, even if you're running open gate or not. We can do that mathematically. So then you can compare yourself to the region and you say that, hey, the region average is 600. Why am I at 900 meters? Then we can highlight, where the areas that are needing troughs. And also there's other aspects for, dam quality. Can we measure, is it accessible to livestock? Is it concreted? Is it like a concrete ramp? Is it fenced? All these different questions. Then there's livestock health as well, whether that's through treatments or understanding how the death rate's comparing to the regions. All right, now we'll jump to what we're asking for the beta. So we're asking farmers to join the beta. We've recently added Foragecaster Beta to the AgriWebb marketplace. So we're encouraging customers to sign up. The reason is by getting the real customer feedback, it's going to help make the machine learning more accurate for your particular area. Because of the terms and conditions, like the farmers own their data, we're not going to share your geolocation data with any third party without your permission. So we really want to be able to understand the satellite information, we need to increase the beta group. So the researchers can start using the satellite information and correlating it to the actual farm data. Also, we want to get a cohort of interested producers that we can contact through surveys and also interviews, where you guys can tell us what's important to you, so you guys can help shape the future of the product. Last year we did over a year and a half, we did I think over 30 hours of interviews with farmers already through the initial beta groups. The benefits is you'll also get early access to new features as well. So you'll get the features before everyone else, and you can give us your feedback on how it's going. Pip will be running our customer liaison with the beta groups of Foragecaster. But yeah, you can contact the farm success and with any questions or suggestions you have for the Foragecaster as well. I'll just quickly run through what we're talking about signing up to the beta. It's very easy. You just go to the portal, go to accounts, click marketplace, click research here, and that will filter it down to the new Foragecaster marketplace item. There's some text here you can read about the project and who gets access to it and so on. We're not sharing any billing information, like any credit card or anything like that. We're not sharing any names or anything like that. You'll have a lot less farms than this. This is our test AgriWebb account, so we've got a lot of test farms. But you just select which farm you want to include on it. And then it tells you the different access that the researchers will be able to see there. All right. How are we going for time? 10 minutes for questions, not too bad. Yeah, so feel free to ask any questions. Do we have anything to start us, Pip?
Not just yet. I was guess just to add from me from the beta, the group. Obviously we launched that a couple of weeks ago and we've had quite a few people come in and join that already, which is fantastic. But this session was really just to get you guys some more information about, what Foragecaster is all about, where we're at so far. But the biggest, next step for us is to start getting feedback on what we've done so far and then make it personalized and work for you guys. So by joining the beta, not only will your data go to our researchers and they can start using that in confidentiality, but we'll also be reaching out to you when there are new features available to use. So as Kenny mentioned, as we're sort of iterating on the grazing planner and things like that, you guys will be the first ones to get your hands on it and test it and kick the tires. And then we really want to hear your feedback, hear what it is good for, where it's missing the mark, and we continue to sort of build from there. So early features is a big benefit. And then there will be opportunity to have your say in sort of more formalized surveys too. So it's really about getting real producer feedback on the things that we've built so far, because obviously that's super, super important.
Excellent. Thanks, Pip.
But yes, if there's any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. I know we had a few answered already. But I guess in the meantime, maybe David, we can go to you. Obviously, you've got a bit of knowledge on Foragecaster, and we've talked at length about it before. But I guess I'd be interested to hear from your perspective. How do you see this fitting into operations that either have started, they're very good at planning, they do it outside of AgriWebb, they're well along the way in their sustainability metrics versus those who might be more at the beginning of their journey?
Yeah, look, I was just thinking before while you were talking, and sort of backing up what I was saying before about data. Data is just so important these days, and we're in a phase of MRV, measure, record, and verify, and the companies won't accept our word for it. We've really got to demonstrate it. We've got to be able to verify it, and that's so important, I think, in all the stuff we collect. So there's obviously with the way you're doing it, I think, and if we can verify and back up the data we've provided, that it provides a really good solid base of data that the companies will be happy to pay for. They're coming down, Coles, for instance, with us coming back down their supply chain, and they're wanting to reduce their Scope 3 emissions. So I see a huge, opportunity there for us, as mentioned, particularly for companies to help. We'll be helping companies reduce their Scope 3 emissions, but in fact they're our emissions as well, because the cattle that Coles buy from us are, of course, their Scope 3 emissions. So that's an opportunity for us. But getting back to the nutrition and the grazing stuff, I think there's always stuff to learn there, and always benefits in that. Everyone's got different ideas and different setups. We've got a couple of places that are set up for rotational grazing, and I could see a lot of benefit, getting them set up and working effectively, or probably more effectively than what we do at the moment, in terms of monitoring and measuring and keeping the cattle ticking along at that 0.8 or 0.9 or 1 kilo per head per day.
Great. Thanks, David. Yeah, we got a question coming in from John. So he's asking, can we learn how to better manage pastures coming into a dry period through analysis of historical data? And that develop useful tools to help farmers manage their individual situations better? Yeah, that's a great question, John. And it's something that we want to address with our machine learning, in that we want to be able to predict how that pasture performance will be. And to do that, we are amplifying your local data. And so even though we can use the machine learning from the whole nation, we can use the regional information as well. we amplify it, the local one, the most. So if we can actually see that, if you had these paddocks that are uh, uh, high quality and they're always giving better staying power during the dry periods, then if you have the historical records, the machine learning will realize that, and that will show it to you in as you are working out your grazing plan in the next few months. All right, keep the questions coming in.
Kenny, David here. How many numbers can you handle? What's the sort of ideal number of beta testers that you sort of need or require or would be optimum?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're open to go. We wanted to get a minimum of 50 by the end of April. Although we are getting a little bit close to that now. But I'm happy to go higher, like 100, 150. I
Wow.
haven't put a top limit on it. Um, yeah, the initial set of beta farms, we did do some deep dives where we picked one particular farm and we analyzed it in depth for 6 weeks, where all the researchers focused on one farm. So that's where you saw some of those slides of the satellite analysis and the livestock machine learning, for example. So that was to try and gauge their importance when we showed it back to the farmer after 6 weeks. And we said, what do you think is accurate? What's important to you? What's surprising? And what's interesting? To try and figure out our direction on what we should be following up on, or what looks wrong and we need to recheck. So like that, that was giving us some initial ideas about areas we could be moving in. And now we'll be slowly productizing those and showing it to the beta customers and doing that at a wider scale. Yeah. There was one, we're nearly wrapped up now. It's like 2 minutes left. There was a question about benchmarking, but I don't know if we have enough time. We can show you something very quickly about what benchmarking could look like. Would you rather see productivity benchmarking or sustainability? Maybe we can show you both. Let's have a look quickly. All right. So let me jump back a bit, sorry. Regarding sustainability benchmarking, there's many different frameworks out there. So how do you make a sustainability benchmark? And all of these benchmarks have trouble on getting this data on farm. Even if you could say a metric, all these regions differ quite greatly as well, as due to rainfall. And also for any different farm, there may be many different metrics. How do you even compare farms? So the idea, I'm going to skip through these quickly and show you what it could look like. This is what a benchmarking system could look like, where you compare yourself to the region and see that historically. That could be made up of some high-level categories. Each of these categories you could drill down in, because it's hierarchical. Click into greenhouse gases. Now you can see your scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. Let's click into scope 1. Now it breaks down to carbon and methane, nitrous oxide. And then for each one of those, you click on methane and you see where it comes from. So this looks all very complicated. You don't have to drill down to the lowest level, but at the high level, it shows you how you're comparing overall. So you can drill down as far as you want to see the evidence, but it also shows you at the high level how you're going. And likewise, we can do the same thing for productivity, whether that be average daily gain or livestock mortality or fertility rates and things like that as well. All right, we hit 1:30. Thank you very much for your time, everyone. Great to see so many people online. Hope you all have no issues signing up to the beta. Ping us if you have any questions or any queries about it. and we'll chat to you soon. The next Foragecaster update.
See you later.
Thank you very much, Kenny.
Thank you very much, David, a special guest. All right.
Thanks, Pip.